Hello and welcome to the unofficial Bronze Overwatch League, and today we're going to be doing a video analysis. Let's get started. So, if you want to get straight into the analysis, you can skip over to this timestamp right over here. It'll get you straight into what we're talking about. But I'd like to take this time, considering this is the first installment, to explain exactly what the Bronze Overwatch League is and what these video analysis will entail. So the main idea of the Bronze Overwatch League is that I was watching a lot of, top level players, or, all these better players than what I am, and I wanted to see what the difference maker was. What are they doing that I'm not? So I thought, what if there was actually edited VODs of people that are actually in bronze to kind of show off what good plays they're making and what not so good plays they're making. And I want to help people like myself learn from these mistakes, because usually you're not constantly making mistake after mistake after mistake. It's more that you make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mistakes in a game, and that could cost you your team. But at the same point, I don't want anyone to go out and harass people or try and, make fun of people. That's not the point of this. The point of this is to show what plays are good and explain why plays might not have worked out the best way, and explain kind of, the back and forth between this actual game. So obviously, the reason we're unofficial is because we have no association with, Microsoft Blizzard or whoever runs Overwatch. It's completely my own thing. It's nothing to do with the Overwatch League. Just want to get that out of the way. So now that we know actually what the bowl is, I want to go and explain how these videos are going to be structured. The way these videos are going to be structured is that it's going to be 3 to 5 different key moments that I'm going to show every perspective on and explain what we did right and what could have been done better. So starting off with today's episode, we're going to be talking about the video I had just recently posted that was a very close game between me and the other team, and I want to show exactly why things went the way they did, or what mistakes that we made, what mistakes did they make, what plays did they do that were very good, what plays did we do that were not so good, and really get a good idea of what the game was like. So starting off, we have our team comps, which on my team is for DPS Soldier 76, a Cassidy, Moira, and Brigitte for our healers. We have a Sigma for our tank and also a Rhine, and that makes up our side. Now on the other side, you have their DPS, which is a Junkrat, a Reaper. Their healers are Zenyatta, Moira, and their tanks are Winston and Rhine. So we're actually going to jump straight into the first play that I find interesting, which is going to be an interaction between me, a Reaper, and Moira. Also, I want to get this out of the way. I am by no means an expert. I might talk in absolutes just for the sake of the video's, simplicity, but take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, and also what I'm saying isn't exactly perfect. There's a reason I'm still in bronze, so just want to get that out there. Okay, so starting off, this play is very interesting, and there's a lot of moving parts that go into it that I'd like to talk about. So first, let's talk about this play from the perspective of Moira. So you see that Moira has a general movement just towards the point, and she happens to come in from, the front-facing door, and she happens to see that Reaper has just walked in, and she immediately throws out an orb, and then uses her drain ability to bring him almost to death. Now moving on, if you look at it from my perspective, I actually run down past the stairwell, look through the open door, happening to see Reaper, and then come around the side to see if he comes running out of that door. I then catch him by surprise and end up finishing him off. And lastly, looking at Reaper's perspective, it actually starts at the very beginning that he teleports way beyond where his team is to get super far ahead of them, then goes down through the stairwell and uses his Wraith ability to check into the point, realizing that there's a Moira waiting for him, tries to engage but can't seem to close that distance, so he runs out to try and find the health pack that he knows about, and then ends up getting blindsided by me. So we now know the full context and everyone's perspective from this battle. Now let's talk about what we as a team did well and what the Reaper actually did kind of poorly, and show how he could have done it better. So starting off with our team play, the Moira comes in, the only thing she really ends up wasting is her phase ability. That's pretty fast on the recharge, and it's also usually seen as kind of a movement option. And Moira also keeps her distance throughout this entire fight. So the fact that she did technically waste a resource, which she could have avoided, she, for the most part, stays safe and keeps her distance from Reaper and ends up almost securing the kill entirely on her own. And as for my side of this play, I actually check through the door, see where he is, try and pin him down coming through the middle door, and then see him running away and catch him trying to go for that health pack. As for Reaper, on the other hand, there's a couple of mistakes that I made that kind of led to this. Starting off is using his teleport to immediately jump through the entire hallway. You might think that this is actually not that big a deal, but to use this so readily and early before your entire team is there is a good way to just kind of run in and die. Sometimes Reapers get away with this because they have their healing factor and they have their Wraith. The next mistake is that he uses his Wraith to come in and check who is inside the point instead of using it as a defensive option. For example, if he just walked into the point and then saw the Moira, he could have Wraithed straight to her, closed the distance, and actually secured that kill. So now I want to move on to the next main point, which if we jump ahead here, you look to see that Ryan is about to charge towards the main point to take space, and let's see what happens. So as you can see, that didn't exactly work out very well for the Ryan, and why is that? Well, this is something that I think a lot of Ryan should be very aware of, but also soldiers should be aware of as well, that if you ever see a Ryan charging, this one's a little more obvious, but if you can predict when a Ryan is going to charge at you, it's actually extremely easy to line up your shots with the Ryan's head and just melt him down. To be fair, I did have the help of a Cassidy, but still we melted him down to most of his health and finished him off, taking out one of your biggest hitters. Now what Ryan could have done better is obviously not go for such a long range charge, but also if you mix it up and make it more unpredictable, or if you know that your team can back you, it will actually end up leading towards more valuable plays. And finally, there's one last play that I want to cover, and it's the final team fight that basically will decide who wins this game. If our team comes out on top here, then we can secure the point and we already basically have entire control of it. On the other hand, if the team on the opposite side can find a way to split us apart or actually get to us, they could come back and finally cinch that victory that they're looking for. So the way this starts off, and it already starts off a little shaky for our team, is that we all group together very front pushing because our Ryan has decided that he wants to hold his shield very front forward, which this could still work. This isn't inherently a mistake, but what you have to understand with competitive and control point and things like that is the longer you can stall and the longer you can slow down the game, the better it is for the team that has control of the point. So pushing forward like this, A, groups us up a little too tightly and doesn't give us much advantageous space, unlike staying inside the point originally where we were. So they then have their entire team coming to fight our team in a team fight 6v6, with Torbjorn having his ult right on deck. And then you can actually see that Grumpy Monk runs in ahead of our Rhine and ends up getting booped back and then falling into Torbjorn's ult after he pops it off. This ult is beautiful. It's probably one of the best Torb ults I've seen, at least playing in recent memory, that it splits the entire group in half, and then 6 party members on their side all head towards the left stairwell, taking out half of our team, putting us in a 3v6 situation where we have to figure something out. You can actually see though, after that we're split up, Junkrat basically can go through 1v1ing over and over and over till eventually he's killed practically most of our team, and then Winston just goes in, cleans up shop, and it's the end of the game. So finally, let's talk about what we could have done differently. Obviously, we shouldn't have been as stacked as much as we were, and one of the things that you obviously is a higher level concept, and it's very hard to do this in game actually, but is paying attention to when people ult and when they have ult, because if you know that Torb hasn't ulted in a long time, he probably has it, and you probably shouldn't be grouped up because of the fact that Torb loves when everyone's grouped up because he gets the most mileage out of his ult. And there's a couple little things like that you can focus on. The only other thing I could really say is don't push up as far as we did. Because it does lead to those kinds of team fights, especially in an area that if for some reason you had an ult that went straight down the middle, could split you in half. That does lead to a lot of issues like that, where basically it becomes a 3v6 instead of the 6v6 that it should have been. The only other option is maybe we could have chased behind them instead of trying to back away, even though the Winston was in fact putting pressure on us at that time. So that's about gonna do it for today. If you want to see the rest of this and how the second round plays out, there's a highlight video over on the channel that you can look at. Really appreciate it if you went there. Also, if you want me to talk about one of your VODs, there's actually a little code that you can get a shareable link. If you want to post that in the comments down below, I'd be more than happy to look out anyone's interesting VODs to maybe, you know, get some more ideas. The only caveats I have to say is that it has to be a bronze match. Obviously, I don't want to be, you know, showing off people in higher ranks, just because the whole point is to show how people in bronze make good decisions and how sometimes they make decisions that don't work out. But anyways, that's gonna do it for me. I'm Casual from the Bronze Overwatch League. Catch you next time.